Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I'm joined by the amazing Alex and Micah. How you doing today, guys?
Amazing. We get
Amazing,
amazing.
apparently.
Wow.
Yeah. We got amazing. So I'm already doing better than I was when this thing started. This is great.
Doing good. Glad to be here.
Now, I'm very excited to have you guys here. Now, before we talk about the reason that you guys are here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. They host the podcast Slasher. I hardly know her. Tune into the Slasher Brothers as special guests as they brave the wonderful world of horror movies and play Final Girl, the perverse little game that is sweeping the nation. Not the nation, that's corny. That's underselling too. It's sweeping the world. So make sure you guys are checking out Slasher. I hardly know her. I have their links down in the description. So make sure that you are subscribing to the podcast on whichever platforms you're using and following the guys on social media. So let's start with you first, Micah. What gave you guys the desire to want to start Slasher? I hardly know her.
This guy, Alex, called me on the phone one day and said, "Hey, do you want to do a horror podcast where we get to watch old horror movies and talk about them?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do it."
Well, I mean, obviously Alex is the brains behind the operation.
No, I think I was mowing my lawn listening to a horror movie podcast, actually. And in between, I was like, oh, that'd be fun. And there we were. I think we started ours around COVID, didn't we? Did we start before or during or?
21, somewhere in 21. I think it was August of 2021.
So it was after. I don't even remember.
See, and the best part about that is a lot of podcasts came out during this worst time in people's lives, and a lot of people were able to take that and make it into a huge positive. I obviously would never wish that. I'm actually struggling with it right now. Just found out last night.
Hey,
I would never wish this on anybody. Yeah, right. I'm actually here. Here's my award. I got my little Elf on the Shelf award. There he is. But he brought donuts this morning, so thanks, Elf. So I would never wish that on anybody, but I'm glad that there were people that were able to take, this really, really negative thing and turn it into a positive. And there was a lot of people that did it for a couple months, maybe a couple weeks, and were like, you know what, this is hard. Fuck this. I'm not doing this. You guys were able to brave all the way through it and keep going out the other side. So, Alex, what is the drive that keeps you guys going to not throw in the towel and say, God damn, this is way harder than people make it sound?
I think it's kind of in angst against Micah, really, because he kind of thought, no, this won't go on. I'll let Alex play this little game and we'll do a couple of episodes. He'll never do it. So every edit I make and every little clever commercial I come up with, I'm not laughing. I'm thinking, yeah, take this, you son of a bitch. Yeah, well, this will last a whole nother year, you piece of shit. Yeah. So really it's that. I think
spite fueled, yeah.
Yeah, spite fueled.
I picture Alex at the gym doing butterflies, and instead of listening to music, he's listening to Micah's voice, like, I'll show you, you son of a bitch. I will show you that I'm not gonna quit this shit.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna kick your ass, and then you'll respect me.
So any success we have really is just out of pure spite.
So what about you, Micah? Because like I said, when you first start doing this, it really is. You think, oh, I listen to people, all they do is talk, and then they put it out there to the world. Then you start to do it, and you realize the amount of editing that goes into it, the amount of research, the amount of, talking to other people in the community about their opinions and trying to gauge their interest in coming on and doing your show. And, it really is a lot harder than people make it out to be. It's not like hey, let's start a podcast. Okay. Hey, look, we have 1 million subscribers and it's been 2 weeks. There's a lot of hard work, dedication, and drive that goes into doing a podcast and keeping it successful. So what is the drive that keeps you going?
Well, we got that 1 million subscribers in the first 2 weeks. You didn't have that. It was easy. I mean, we heard it was hard, but it was so easy for us. We've just been riding that high. And we make it hard on ourselves too. Alex and I, our show in particular, has fake commercials and all these different segments that require work from us before and after the show. We're like, why did we do this to ourselves? Why didn't we make this easy and just get on and talk instead of all these gimmicks and interviews and sketches that we record? But on the other hand, that's what I love to do, is just making goofy shit, sketch comedy, stand up, all of that, making music. Like, that's fun. it would be a blast if we, didn't have day jobs. So, hey, tell your friends about our show so we can quit our day jobs. Then it would be just fun. But, juggling the job, the day job, and doing the show, it's a lot. But I don't know. It's kind of worth it when I hear the show or hear somebody, like, oh, this was so good or this was so funny. It's like, oh, cool. Somebody out there likes what we're doing.
It really is. It's the best feeling in the world when you get that feedback from somebody that, yo, dude, this commercial you guys did made me bust up laughing right in the middle of the show, and to get those type of things when people are telling you that, it's a really good feeling. And what you guys do, the originality that comes with a lot of your guys' segments and putting in the fake commercials. Like you said, it's a lot of extra work, but it's what separates you from other people that are just in there. Hey, we're going to talk about this movie. We're going to talk about this final girl. Does she deserve to be a final girl? Who would be a better final girl? You guys actually split it up and make it a lot more fun for your listeners, a little bit more interactive. So, and again, I know I said this before, but you guys can become a part of that family by clicking the links down in the description. So if you guys do a horror movie podcast, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now, gentlemen, I would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And I'll start with you first this time, Micah. Your first horror movie was?
I'm going in the
Is
past.
Is it getting
Yeah, see, there we go.
Flashback.
I don't know what you do with editing. I just wanted to give you options.
I wish
Yeah, absolutely. You just made it the best it could possibly be.
Let's see here. All right, I got so caught up in our flashback that I forgot the question. You said what was the first movie?
Yep, the first horror movie.
I was thinking Wayne's World, Fog Machines. I'm like, how can we make this flashback even better? The first. Okay, so I got a convoluted answer, which is the first scary movie I saw. I only saw part of it, and I think my parents were watching People Under the Stairs, but I was quickly escorted out of the living room and told I was too young to watch it because it was too scary. The first scene that really scared me in a movie wasn't a horror movie. It was from The Last Starfighter. There's this scene. There's a bad alien on top of a gas station roof, and that one literally sent me behind the couch, like peeking, watching it. I was terrified. But the first legit scary movie that I got to watch was when I was 13. It was Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
What a fantastic start. I like how the first one you caught a glimpse of was Wes Craven. The one you finally got to dive into is Wes Craven. Like, that's amazing.
I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in my hometown, and there was this run-down little dollar theater. I think it only had 2 screens, and my older brother and his friend, who were 17 at the time, they sneaked me into the movies. Not sneaked me in, but they had to go back and forth with the guy tearing tickets. Like, no, it's cool. Our parents said he can come, which they didn't. None of us were allowed to see it, but they finally got me in, and it terrified me. I was very scared that Freddy was going to get me and was under my bed for a very long time after that.
Well, without Wes Craven's New Nightmare, the horror genre wouldn't be what it was today. I firmly believe that if Wes hadn't done Wes Craven's New Nightmare, he would have never done Scream. And without Scream, we wouldn't have the horror genre we have today. Whether you love or you hate Scream, it completely reinvented what we think of as horror. So good job, Wes Craven, for New Nightmare. I think it's one of the most underrated films, especially in that franchise. It gets way overlooked for how brilliant it is. But what about you, Alex? What was your first horror movie?
Micah got me thinking, with the scene and stuff. I do remember the first like scary scene I ever saw. I just am not still to this day sure what movie it was. It might have been Prom Night, but it was, I was so young, I barely remember it. I just remember, like a dark figure like up in like the rafters of a school gym or something. And I mean, like it was kind of like Mike. It was like, oh no, buddy, get out of here, and, so I never was sure what it was, but I mean, like, I remember it, it's seated with me. But the first legit horror movie I think I was ever allowed to watch, and probably shouldn't have been because I had like a really young stepmom, and she like way too young to be my stepmom. And she was just like, oh, you've never seen Halloween? And I'm like, nah, what's that? I'd love to see that. I was probably, I don't know, 10 or 11, maybe. Too young to see Halloween, probably. But yeah, it was great. I mean, like, I was in. I mean, I wasn't scared about it. Like, I wanted to be scared by it. Like, I mean, I wanted to, like, feel him looking through the windows, and be like, oh my God, I mean, like, it was so, the original John Carpenter's Halloween 1978, that did it for me. And really, I'm more of a slasher fan than anything, and that's why. I mean, 100%.
Uh-huh. And I love how we've gone from Wayne's World with the boo 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 to Bill and Ted with the super young stepmom. You know, these two things are things right now that are going through my head. So
That's true. Yeah.
obviously, 80s, 90s comedies are going through my head right now too. So
I think
that all checks out because I'd say Bill and Ted, Wayne and Garth, Alex and I, all similar IQ level.
Am I Wayne or Garth?
Ooh, I don't know. Let's see. Let's have a look at you.
Well, who are you, Wayne or Garth?
I can feel me being more of a Garth because I really enjoy doing this.
Okay, I'll be Wayne then. I don't care
I'm
how it
shaking
goes.
my
They're
head.
both epic.
I look
I'm
great in
What
a
I'm
also
saying
blonde
is,
wig.
Bill or
if
Ted.
you guys are Wayne and Garth, I'm Bugs Bunny when he puts on a disguise and plays Girl Bunny. That's what I am.
Love it.
So, Alex, we know that you guys were both very young the first time you had seen these movies. We know that you've seen it with your stepmom, Micah. We know that you went to the theater with your brothers. But, Alex, which scene from Halloween would you say it was that affected you the most?
Say that one more time. Which scene? Oh, which scene from Halloween? Um, that scene where, I mean, I know I almost feel embarrassed to say it now because it's so like quintessential. It's like such a trope, but also that's because of this movie, right? But it's
Mhm.
that, this all scenes of this movie are so, iconic. But that scene with Jamie Lee in that rickety closet, right? Like no protection. It's got the slats. You could, I mean, there's no protection there anyway. Like, even if he can't, bust through or whatever, he's getting through that door and he comes through
Right.
those slats. And when she gets him in the neck with the coat hanger, right? Like, it seems like such a weapon you don't think about, right? But it was what she had there. And also, that sucks. It's like the one that Mike and I talk about all the time, the knife in the armpit was it the latest Halloween or the one right before? It was the one right before it, wasn't it?
The one right
I can't
before.
remember if it was Halloween or Kills. Was it the first one?
Yeah.
That was the
And
armpit.
yeah, it
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
knife in the armpit, and it's
Ugh.
like, wow, it was that knife in the armpit moment for me.
Yeah.
That still hurts just
And
hearing about it.
you're right.
Touching
And
my
it's funny
armpit
because we
now.
talk about how these moments are cliche now, but the reason they are is because of how impactful they are. They wouldn't be cliche unless it was a moment that we all thought about when we thought about this movie. And that's why it's cliche because it's almost like a hive mind when it comes to this movie. That's one of the biggest scenes. I mean, it's been parodied, it's been homage, it's been completely ripped off. It's one of those scenes that makes that movie what it is. So I understand that. Um, what about you, Michael? What was the scene from New Nightmare that stuck with you the most?
Man, I watched it again because I'd mentioned to you, do we need to do any prep? And you're like, well, watch your movie. And I hadn't seen it since I was 13. So I watched it, and no wonder this thing scared me as badly as it did. I forgot about how odd and how convincing a meta concept would be to a 13-year-old because we were already afraid of Freddy. And then they paint it as, oh, it's all movies, except that he's actually coming out of the movie and he's very real. So I can see, like, you don't know if you're having residual fear from that initial impact when you were a kid, or if like you're actually scared of this scene. It's like, am I scared of this, or am I scared because I
Would
remember how
it
scared I was the first time I saw it?
would it
But
scare you now if it was the first time you saw it? Like,
yeah,
I get that
exactly.
totally. Like, does it still work because you don't know anymore? Yeah.
Well,
I
and in the
remember
movie, go ahead.
I remember the opening scene, all these flames and fires and the claw, but the scene that sticks out to me that I still remembered before I rewatched it was Heather Langenkamp's husband is driving back from Palm Springs, where he's been out there working on a shoot, and he's been working on the new claw for an upcoming Freddy movie. And he leaves Palm Springs to go back to LA to get back to Heather and their son, who's played by that child actor. What's his name? Miko something or other. He was the little bowl cut kid that was in a lot of stuff. Fantastic job he does, by the
Is
way.
his last name Cash? Is it Nico Cash? No, it's a different person. I know who you're talking about though. He was in Pet Cemetery, right?
Yeah. I think he was also in Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
Boys have penises, girls have vaginas,
Yes. So the husband's driving back because something's happened with the kid. He's got to get to them, and earlier we had panned back to the truck where he's working on the glove, and now that he's left, the glove is missing. He didn't take it. It's just disappeared. So he's cruising down the road. He's falling asleep, and then from his seat, you see the claws come up through the upholstery, and the claw just like tickles the crotch of his pants.
And
And he's
and learn what happens next, folks, after the break during the table read of A New Nightmare by Micah from Slasher I Hardly Know Her. Whoo!
I'm just getting
Can I
started.
go get some
We're about
popcorn?
1/8 through this story, but the claw comes up and it rips his chest, and there's so much blood, and that terrified me as a child.
Sorry, Micah.
You ruined
And
my
what you were
story.
talking about with, especially with it being the meta aspect of
Yeah.
it, you know, as kids especially, Robert Englund was Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund was not Robert Englund.
Sure.
So in this movie where we actually see Robert Englund playing Robert Englund, having an obsession with Freddy Krueger, also really terrifies you because you're like, no, that's Freddy. That's not Robert. That's Freddy. You know, I can tell that's Freddy. So, you know, I remember as a kid thinking like it was the ultimate twist. Like Freddy was like, oh, I'm not Freddy. I'm Robert now. And nobody else is going to
Yeah.
notice
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm just the guy. You know, because I didn't understand the idea of meta. I didn't understand what that meant as a kid. So to see it actually taking place in the real world was something that blew my mind. And like you said, that part with that glove, because it's no longer a glove. It's the whole, it's everything. It's the animatronic thing. So at that time, we're just now thinking about VR. We're thinking about animatronics. We're thinking about all these things. And then you have this moment of it getting into his chest. An amazing, amazing moment in the film. So, with Halloween, we're talking about a movie that, you know, while in my opinion, not the first slasher film, when you talk about your prototypical slasher film, you talk about Halloween because it emphasizes the importance of your final girl just as much as your villain. You learn as much about both of them. So in a way, you really do care about both your villain and your final girl. You know, with Psycho, you don't learn a lot about Mrs. Bates. With, you know, obviously it's Norman, but you don't get that, you know, exposition of who she is. With Black Christmas, you don't get to know who Billy is. He's just an eyeball throughout most of the movie. But Halloween really does the balance of both, the importance of good and evil, that yin and yang that's become really one of the most prototypical parts of making a slasher, creating a villain and a hero or, you know, heroine that everybody loves. Now, do you remember which scene it was that was your favorite scene from the OG Halloween?
Uh, you know, there's a million wonderful scenes in that, right? The one, like one of the ones that always, like when if you're ever like, I mean, I shoot videos, right? I put together video projects, I edit a lot. And when you're setting stuff up and when you think about lighting and silhouetting and, you know, things of that nature, that I always think of that scene where the kids, I think it's the kids that are looking out of the, you know, the house across the street where Lori's babysitting them. And they see him, they see the boogeyman, right? Almost, I mean, not complete silhouette, right? But, you know, the lighting in that is so amazing. And he's walking and they, you know, they see him walking past. And of course, when you look back out, he's not there, you know, classic Michael Myers. But, I love that scene. And I think about that scene when I light anything. When I light anything, I think about the scene. Not because I'm trying to achieve that look, just because, like, I guess that was such an early example of me recognizing the power and the effect of lighting in a scene. And so that sticks with me now that I light scenes and I light things. It makes me think, oh, you know, like that. Surely there's a connection right there in a young brain, right? Like, so, like, I think about that, even though it's not such a huge scene, it's a scene that I think about probably more than anything. I learned a lot about filmmaking from this movie.
Right. And it's funny you bring up the line, you know, the boogeyman, because embarrassingly enough, I grew up in a video store. My mom and dad owned a mom and pop video store, and I never watched any of the Halloween movies until I got a little bit older. So, you know, I grew up with Child's Play, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. And then I watched Halloween for the first time when I was probably 12 or 13, and I hated it. I was like, this movie is slow. Michael Myers is boring. Like, I didn't understand the concept of a slow burn at a young age and how truly terrifying this movie is because it's just a guy. You know, that's all it is. But one of my favorite lines ever is when you have the little boy, you go to Laurie and he just tells her,
You can't kill the boogeyman.
you know, like that line to me, that line is one of the best lines of any horror movie ever because it's a little kid telling you, you didn't win. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, we're still fucked. Like, I don't know what you're happy about. Like, we're done here.
And
So
I love,
I really do enjoy what they were able to do with just a small line.
yeah, that's one of the things I love about Halloween too, is its use of children, like better even than Friday the 13th, which is a slasher film, one of my favorite series, absolutely my favorite series probably, but you have that slasher who's killing at summer camps, but almost there's never children, right? There's like children in one maybe of the movies, I think. And but in this, there's all the Halloweens, up until like fairly recent, have a very like child, heavy element, whether it was Jamie, Danielle Harris as Jamie, or whether it was the kids in the first who, Laurie is their protector, basically. They're not even her children, so they seem even more like, fragile. And like I liked that throughout, even in the Paul Rudd one where he's got to like protect the baby and stuff. There's always another element of like protecting children in there that makes it scarier because like children are, like you said, like a kid saying you can't kill the boogeyman. It's like, oh, you're so innocent and fragile, and so it adds that element, and all of those do that. I prattled
It
on. Sorry,
absolutely does.
I did a Micah. Sorry.
That's what, honestly, though, that's what makes it, that's what sets it apart from the other franchises. And Michael ain't afraid to kill a kid either. We see
Right.
Michael,
Yeah.
and we all love Danielle Harris, cookie lady. That's the shit right there.
We all
So,
love
Mike, we're
Daniel
talking about
Harris,
Nightmare on Elm
but
Street,
we
Wes
don't all
Craven.
love him as much as Alex.
I do love Danielle Harris.
He holds a special place in his heart.
Do love Dan. I mean, that doesn't make me some sort of special, unique horror fan by any means, but like I loved her, from childhood, and we have the same birthday. So like as a kid, I was like, we have a connection. When
Right.
we meet, our eyes will meet and it'll be a whole thing. But I'm now happily married, but my wife even understands my affinity, so that's okay.
I was waiting for
Danielle, wherever you are. He does have a ring. He's just waiting.
I am happily married now. My wife, her name is Danielle Maris. She's quite nice. Pull up this little doll. This is little Danielle. We're happily married. But no, talk about Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven's new Nightmare. Obviously, Nightmare is part of a huge franchise now. Micah, which film in that franchise would you say is your absolute favorite?
Oh, that's tough. I don't think I've seen all of them. That one also has a special place in my heart, but I don't think I've been through every one of them. I've seen the first one several times, and the other ones I've seen, it's been so long. So I think I'd probably go with number one. That's the one but New Nightmare kind of, for me, it falls apart the longer it goes. It starts really strong and gets more convoluted, and I kind of lose interest towards the end. But it has some of the best scenes in any nightmare. Like the scene, just the very beginning where they're working on a claw for a movie, and then it's attacking people. It ends up being Heather's dream, but it's still frightening to watch. And then it has that classic scene where you ever skin a cat, and he drags the babysitter on the ceiling and the walls, and the gore's not that crazy. I guess it was just cool because he's carrying her up in the room. But the blood out of the bed, the Johnny Depp scene from the first one, that's one I'll never forget.
Well, and you talk about the thing that I think is so special, especially for Nightmare fans about Skin the Cat, is we finally see Freddy do it. In the first movie, they didn't have the budget. So in the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, you'd never see Freddy kill anyone throughout the whole movie. You see Johnny Depp go in the waterbed. You see Jasu get hanged in the jail cell. You see Tina get dragged up the wall. But you never see Freddy do any of it. Freddy's on screen in the first Nightmare movie for less than 8 minutes because they did it.
Is it Mom that gets yanked through the tiny window at the end?
Yeah,
that's
fucking
ridiculous.
stupid bullshit.
Foam dummy. I love this.
But it's just one of those things where, that's how effective the idea of Freddy Krueger was. Like I said, they didn't have the budget to do his makeup over and over. So he's on screen for less than 8 minutes in that first movie, and he became the icon he is today because the idea was that great.
He's so
So,
scary. He kills you
right.
in your dreams. This is not even a joke. I was watching it this morning, New Nightmare, and my wife came through, and she's like, I can't watch this. I was like, why? She said, it'll give me nightmares. I'm like, just horror movies, period, or Freddy? She's like, Freddy. I still can't watch Freddy. I won't sleep tonight. So we're in our 40s. So, he's scary. I mean, he tormented me just in my imagination. I literally was so concerned that he was under my bed after watching that movie that I tried different strategies. I was like, I know, I'll make friends with Freddy. And I was just full of myself because I knew he would kill me the first chance he got.
Don't worry, Freddie. I burned myself on a stove once. I know what you've been through, bro. We could do this together.
He's scary.
See,
He was
kids
like-
are stupid. Micah just proved it. You got to protect them. It's why Halloween works.
So for this next question, Micah, you're actually going to get to think on this one for a second, and Alex, you're going to have to answer quickly. We've talked about your guys' first horror movies, so now I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball at you here for a second. My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Alex? What is your favorite horror movie?
Oh, my favorite horror movie. That's really, really tough because, like there are comedy horror movies and so like I put them in such different, because, like I could watch Tucker and Dale versus Evil at any moment that it was on television. Like it's like the comedy horror Shawshank Redemption. Like when you're flipping around, you're like, oh, this is on. Okay. Like, so I would, easily Cabin in the Woods, is over there for that. But like my epic, favorite horror movie ever is probably Friday the 13th Part 6. I know people are gonna hate that answer, but that's where Jason became a zombie. That's the one right before he had probably the best makeup ever, but that's where you get the great opening scene where they're digging up. The guy from Welcome Back, Kotter, is going with Tommy to dig up Jason's body and make sure he's dead, and of course immediately bring him to life with lightning. And I mean, like I love that. And what I love about that is, as a boy from the South, the filming locations for that were visitable. Like to be, even as an adult, to think about, being where I live now and, where I'm from, it's like, oh man, I'm never going to have time to like run up to Jersey and see like to see the Camp Crystal Lake, from the original or whatever. And the original is not even one of my favorites. I never watch it. I know it's blasphemy, but there's no hockey mask killer in it. Come on, guys. And so, but that was all filmed in Georgia. Part 6 was all, filmed in Georgia. And I came to that, realization shortly before a trip to Georgia. And so like I got to go to all those locations and like geek out and with my kid, and that was like amazing. So like for so many reasons, that movie is probably my favorite horror movie.
Number 3 for me, Friday the 13th Part 5. Number 2, Friday the 13th Part 6. And you want to talk about blasphemy? My absolute favorite movie in that whole franchise, Jason Goes to Hell. It's fucking brilliant.
Oh,
it is
that
fucking
is blasphemy. He's talk about barely on screen.
Dude, but that's the thing. I think in that case, it makes it when he jumps through that floor at the end and you finally see him, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Here we
and
go.
I love the opening scene of Goes to Hell. Like, when they trap him. I know it's ridiculous when they blow him up and stuff, but I love the way it looks.
What did we talk about on the playground when we were kids? Well, they just blow him up or drop him in a volcano or something. That way you know he's fucking dead. And they fucking did it in this movie. They did what we talked about on the playground. They blew him to fucking pieces, man. 100%. And he showed you. And in this movie, you get the Necronomicon. So you connect this into the Evil Dead franchise. You have the best ending of any horror movie ever with Freddy's glove coming up and taking Jason's mask down to hell. Like, this movie to me is so goddamn special. Like, I could talk to you guys for 4 hours. How the fucking diner scene is straight out of Terminator when you have people jumping over the counters and the guns firing and, Jason just walking up. Like, that movie is so special to me. And I think it is just so, I think it's incredibly, incredibly amazing.
People hate that movie, but it is not by any means on my, I mean, like I easily put it above part 1 and 2, and that's Sackhead Jason. People love Sackhead Jason. I would still put Goes to Hell above that.
It's my favorite.
I mean, like, yeah, it's a great one. I mean, dude, I love Freddy versus Jason. I love the 2009. I am, I am not a hater. If you want to give me Jason, maybe it's not my favorite version, but bring it on. I'll take it. And speaking of which, I don't know when this airs, so you might want to cut this out, but just for your own knowledge, they're going to do a table read of Jason Goes to Hell on Yorkie-thon this afternoon at like 2:30 or something. Adam Green's Yorkie-thon is this weekend.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what horror stars will be doing it, but you can like get it on their website for free. It'll be fun.
Dude, I would kill to be Steven in that read. Like Steven
right.
he's just the shit, man. Creighton Duke, one of the best, anti-heroes of all time.
Yep.
I make fucking hockey mask burgers because of that movie. Like I'm seriously a huge fan of that movie, and I love the fact that they took Adam Marcus, this kid. He's a fucking kid that directed music videos. They put him into the Friday the 13th franchise to direct his first horror movie, and you have Sean Cunningham coming to him going, "Dude, get that fucking hockey mask out of my movie." And this kid still wrote this movie. Like, this is what he came up with. Run it. He's like, you know what? And the Necronomicon, I don't know if you guys know this or not, the Necronomicon that you see in this movie, they couldn't reference it because they didn't own the rights to the name. Sam Raimi gave Adam his personal copy of the Necronomicon to use in the film.
Really?
So
I did not know that.
Yeah, so Sam Raimi gave Adam his personal copy of the Necronomicon, and the dagger that they use is quite clearly the Kandarian dagger from Evil Dead 2. Look at that again. You'll see the head on it and everything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that was all with Sam Raimi's blessing. He wanted to make Jason a Deadite. Like, they have fan fiction about how Jason's dad, Elias, used the Necronomicon to bring him back after the Camp Crystal Lake. That's why he came back the way he came back. And that all started because of Adam Marcus and Jason Goes to Hell. So, sorry we went off on a tangent there, guys. You all know how I feel about Jason Goes to Hell. So,
I love it.
Do you really
remember how old you were when Jason Goes to Hell came out, when you saw it, I mean?
Oh, I was probably 8. I got grounded. I got grounded for the first time ever because of Jason Goes to Hell. I'm not kidding. Everywhere we went, I would tell people about the ending, and I would just be like, oh my God. And my mom was finally like, enough. I don't care. I was like, Mom, I don't think you understand. She was like, go to your room. I do not want to see you for the rest of the night. It was the first time I ever got in trouble. Like, real trouble with my mom was because of Jason Goes to Hell. Like, when that Freddy glove came up, I seriously was like, oh, what the fuck? Yeah. Like, I was so, like, my little mind was blown. I was like, they're allowed to do this type of stuff? So, yeah. So, Mike, you really got an extended period to think because I got on the topic of Jason Goes to Hell.
I want to go watch it right now. Your enthusiasm is ridiculous.
I do too. I thought the same thing.
Second.
It's like, I can definitely have it on the background while I do my stuff today. Like, it's one of those days. So that's perfect. That's what I'll put on.
Please let me know if I changed your mind at all about the opinions of the film.
Dude, I like it. I just wish there was more Jason, but I like your take on, it makes him more powerful when you see him at the end. And I've always loved the open, right? I mean, that's one of my favorite, scenes in the franchise is that open. Yeah. Because it's like it's so quintessential. The lady's running, she trips, and then it's a trap. It's like I love it. But anyway, I won't go off on my rant too. I don't want Micah to have any more time to think.
It's not going to get any better.
One last thing. How funny is it that you have Kane Hodder himself calling Jason a big pussy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the guy was a big old pussy anyway. Like, it's just brilliant, man. So, yeah, like I said, Micah, you got an extended amount of time to think about this, but what's your favorite scary movie, Micah? What is your favorite horror movie?
I'm sorry. It just occurred to me. I bet you they'll have Kane Hodder read Jason in the Jason Goes to Hell script. I bet they'll try to get him to do that because he's friends with him.
Dude,
I'm definitely tuning in. I'm sorry.
Adam.
Yeah, I mean, but of course, maybe he just would refuse to do it. I don't know. Who knows?
Better not, because that movie's a shit.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'm thinking these kind of questions make me nervous because it's so hard to put one in the number one position. Like, even as Alex was talking about his favorite scary movies, I've got the Jimmy legs over here. Like, I don't know what it is.
Okay, how about this? Make it a little easier.
Titles that run through my brain.
3-hour plane ride, and you can only take one horror movie with you on this 3-hour plane ride. What movie are you taking?
Club Dread.
Oh, dude. I actually watched Club Dread on a plane ride once because my wife had never seen it. Let me tell you, think about it. Not a great movie to watch on a plane ride. Like we were constantly having to go, and like cover the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, titles that run through my head. Club Dread is up there. Trick or Treat, Cabin in the Woods, Love Tucker and Dale. There's this really weird one from the 1990s. I think it was shot in the Ukraine called Dark Waters. Not the Jennifer Connelly thing. This one's about a girl who goes back to a convent that she's inherited because I can't remember if it was her mother or father died, and it's super weird. It's not Lovecraft, but it feels like Lovecraft. That one I love. The French one, High Tension, that holds a special place in my heart because that was when I got back into horror after taking a long break from horror. I don't love the ending of that because that
That's
twist
one
has
of the
been done so
things
much,
that
but that's a good one.
cemented our friendship, right? Was
High
a love of
Tension?
horror. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, and you suggested High Tension to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And
then
and then I was
suggested
like,
The
man, this guy
Roost,
knows his
and
horror.
you broke up
And
with me.
then exactly.
Yeah.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Which was early Ty West, who now you like X. That was one of Ty's early ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought Roost was the most boring thing I'd ever seen. But you know what? Maybe with fresh eyes. I was young.
I can't remember.
Right.
It's
All right,
been-
guys. I've had an amazing time hanging out with you guys, talking about your first horror movies, your favorite horror movies. But before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question. And I'll start with you first this time, Micah. What we're going to do is go back to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. What we're doing here is strictly ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Micah, what would your ranking of Wes Craven's New Nightmare be?
I mean, after the description of the rating system, that it's not film analysis, that it's strictly how much did it impact me, that gets all the skulls. It gets the full 10 because it haunted my nightmares for
It's a
literal
full 5.
years.
Yeah.
You said 5. I went 10. Sorry, I'm used to our scale. So 5 out of 5 skulls.
I just wanted
It
you to know I'm
terrified
paying
me.
attention.
So you're not doodling.
I'm a good guest, is what I'm saying.
You're a better guest than me.
Yeah.
No, definitely 5 out of 5. That scared the shit out of me.
And what about you, Alex? What would your ranking of Halloween be?
How could that not be a 5? And I'm not saying that because it's such an iconic movie. I'm saying if Halloween, the original Halloween, was the first movie you ever saw as a horror movie, and then you ended up going on to decorating your house in horror crap and hosting a horror podcast and going to conventions, and that becomes part of your life. It's a 5, man. It's a 5 and then some because it affected so many parts of my life. I love that movie.
I was just going to say the movie affected you to the point to where you're still today trying to get lighting right because of that movie. So
exactly,
if you don't say
yeah.
5, you're a fucking liar.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
I said it at the beginning. I said it at the middle, but it's my show, so I'm going to say it again. We're at the end of the third act, guys. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, subscribe to the podcast on all your podcast platforms and make sure you're following the guys on social media. All those links are down in the description. Don't go anywhere, guys. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know. And follow SledgeHammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.